in this video, I'm going to be talking about keyword arguments. So in order to talk about keyword arguments, we need a function. So let's call this function a warm welcome. And say some parameters, name and greeting, are the parameters for this function. And when we print, let's go ahead and print the greeting by string formatting. And let's go ahead and greet and the name after. Now I need to turn this to f string so that we can format, and there it is. When we call the function warm welcome, we can write down the name. In this case, let's write down Jitty. And you can write down the greeting. Hello. So here's the thing about this. The order in which we put the arguments correspond to the variable it's saved in the parameters of the function. So Jitty is saved as name, written down over here. Python's very nice for showing us this. And hello is stored as greeting. No matter what order we switch this, if we switch hello and greeting, the computer only knows what we put into the name. And in this case, name is saved as hello now, and Jitty is saved as greeting. So if we print this, it wouldn't make sense, right? Jitty hello. But if we switch back the order so that greeting is saved as hello, we print down greeting first, and then we print out the name for second. So we get hello Jitty. And if I were to add another parameter, let's say age, let's say I am age years old, this is shown even more because we have to put down the age as the third input. This is the third argument when we call the function. Right? So 19 has to be in the third argument. If we switch 19 into the second argument, so if we switch greeting and the age is still stored as hello and greeting is still 19. So we're printing down 19 Jitty, right? 19 is right over here. 19 Jitty, I am hello years old. That obviously doesn't make sense. So for functions, for arguments and parameters, normally you're going to have a specific order in which you have to put down the inputs, right? Shown below. But with keyword arguments, the order doesn't matter. So we're going to have the name here, greeting here, and age here. So keep in mind that the variables that we set equal to, the keyword arguments that we set equal to whatever values put here, have to be existing parameters. So we can't put down like height here, right? That doesn't make sense. Height isn't even a parameter inside of the function. You're gonna get an error if you put height here. Okay, unexpected keyword argument height. Since height doesn't exist as a parameter, you're gonna get an error. Now if we print this, right? This is the normal order in which you wrote it: name, greeting, and age, right? But what if we were to switch these around? What if we switch? Let's put greeting here, and then let's put down age. Let's put down age in the middle. Okay. So when we call this, we have hello Jitty, I am 19 years old. We still get a sensible sentence. And that is because keyword arguments do not depend on the order in which you write down your arguments. Greeting will always be stored as hello wherever you put into this. You can change this to what's up, right? But greeting will always be stored as that. Name will not be stored as that. Although we put hello first, hello will not be equal to name. And that's because of the keyword argument. Greeting is equal to hello, age is equal to 19, and name is equal to Jitty. Now the thing about keyword arguments is that you can set a default value. So for example, we can set age equal to 19. And this default value, right? And keep in mind, in order to set a default value, you have to put it into the parameter, into the section where you first create the function. So age equal to 19, by default would be 19. And that works because you don't even have to put a keyword argument when you call the function warm welcome. Age will always be 19. Right? We can set the default value to 25, right? And you're 25 years old. Now, this will change if you put down age is equal to something else. So for example, age is equal to 90. This actually overrides the default value, age is equal to 25. So there will be default values, okay, into your keyword arguments. But you can actually change those default values by simply putting in your own keyword argument, putting in your own argument. So if I wanted to show more of this, maybe I'll set the default greeting to hello. And if we write down, if we don't put in an argument for greeting, by default it will be hello. If we write down greeting all the way over here, so greeting is equal to what's up, then hello will be changed to what's up. So keyword arguments have default values, and you can set those default values when you first create the function. But you can of course override those default values by just simply putting in an argument yourself. Now, here's the thing about default values that you have to watch out for. Your default values have to be after every single parameter. So this right here is called the default parameter, right? And all your parameters, your normal parameters, there's no defaults for them, are just name and age. When you run this, you get an error. That's because parameter without a default, age in this case, follows parameter with a default, greeting, right? So this parameter without a default has to go before the parameter with a default. So we have to put name, age, and then greeting. If you want to have any defaults when you create your function, they have to be after your parameters. So keep that in mind, or else you'll get an error like this. And the error actually, matter of fact, tells you exactly what's wrong. But that's just about default values. How about for positional and keyword arguments? Well, positional arguments are the ones that determine a position, right? The order in which you write the arguments matter. So in this case, if we wrote down Jitty here, right? This is a positional argument since Jitty has to be stored in name, since it's the first thing we put in. We didn't write down name is equal to Jitty. We wrote down just Jitty. And since the first parameter is name and our first argument is Jitty, Jitty will be stored into name. So you run this, Jitty is stored into name, correct? Well, here's the thing. What if we want to write down a bunch of keyword arguments and then put Jitty after, right? So we know that age is stored as 90, and we know that greeting is stored as what's up. So the only thing left, the only logical conclusion left is name, the parameter name doesn't have anything stored into it yet, right? We need some value, and we actually put that at the very end. Here's the thing. This doesn't work, all right? Positional argument follows keyword argument. And Jitty in this case is a positional argument since we didn't set a key to it. In this case, greeting. So we need to put Jitty first, or positional arguments first, or else we'll get an error. So you need to put the positional arguments first when you call the function again, or else you get an error. So you need to put age, and then greeting last, right? If we put Jitty and then 90 in this case, this will work. Now, what if we put name here? Name is the first keyword, or the first parameter. So this is in the proper order, right? Name, age is 90, and greeting is the third, and greeting is the third argument. So greeting is the third parameter, greeting is the third argument, age is the second parameter, 90 is the second argument, and name is the first parameter, and name is the first argument. Well, this is in the proper order still, right? Still, you have to put your positional arguments before. So you have to put 90 in this case, before the keyword arguments. So if I were to put 90 here, it'll actually end up being name. Yeah, so this is a couple things you have to watch out for. You got multiple values for name. So although 90 is technically your age, name is still the first. It's still the first parameter. So 90 will still be stored as the first parameter. And the error that we got here is because we assign name to multiple values, 90 and Jitty. And this clearly doesn't make sense. You shouldn't assign your variables to two values at the same time, correct? So if you want this to work, you simply have to put keyword arguments for everything, or you put the name first and then you put the age after, right? So the order in which you put the keyword arguments and the positional arguments could give you an error. And the order in which you put the default values or the default parameters and the regular parameters, right, could give you an error as well. So these are the couple things you have to watch out for. And I highly recommend you just try this out yourself. Just mess around with it, see what gets you an error, see what doesn't. You'll get familiar with it the more you code, of course. But that's all for the video. If you have any questions, put it in the comment section. And if you found this video helpful, consider subscribing. Liking the video. Thanks for watching.